Greetings and welcome to Beacon Unitarian Universalist Congregation. To our members, friends, and everyone joining us in our virtual congregation on YouTube today. Hello, I am the Reverend Robin Landerman Zucker, minister of this congregation, and I will be hosting our virtual recorded worship service today, March 28th, 2021, and offering a sermon entitled Reading Camus in the Time of COVID. Worship Associate Pia Dreissen-Knittle will share selections and short reflections from this wonderful collection called Alone Together. And we will hear music from Roomie Wood, Stephanie Galloway, Gabriel Hernandez, and some recorded selections as well. We're glad you're here and that you've made Beacon Unitarian Universalist Congregation a part of this day in your spiritual life, whether you are joining us for the first time or you are a regular viewer. We're here every week on YouTube, and we'll be home at 510 North LaRue Street in Flagstaff as soon as it is safe to gather again in person. We're hoping to be able to do that over the summer. Our congregation is spiritually open and intentionally inclusive. Whoever you are and whomever you love, you are welcome here. Our members and friends bring many interests, theologies, and viewpoints to our door. And here we trust that you will find a common desire for meaningful community and spiritual growth and for relevant religious exploration in a framework with very flexible borders. Membership in this congregation is open to anyone who chooses to walk with us in the spirit of love, the search for truth, and the pursuit of justice. As I light the chalice, the symbol of our free faith, I invite you to light a candle or a chalice at home and join in the response words you will see on your screen. We light this chalice with a flame that draws us together. With this flame, we cut through the darkness of isolation and are warmed by the fires of our inner connection. The mission and covenant of Beacon Unitarian Universalist Congregation express our values and our vision of ourselves as a gathered community in the world. Please join me in saying the mission and covenant. You will see the words on your screen. The mission of Beacon Unitarian Universalist Congregation is to be a welcoming community that embraces diverse thought and belief and builds a just, peaceful, and compassionate world. Love is the spirit of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve humanity and kindness. Thus do we covenant.
In the toughest time you ever knew, the only thing that you could do was carry the flame. Sickness spreading through the land, you held your spirit in your hands and carried the flame. When storms and sorrows gathered round, you raised your head and you stayed your ground. You carried the flame. Through endless days of the hardest living, you kept on loving, kept on giving. You kept on and carried the flame. Carry the flame, raise it high, send its beacon through the sky, keep it strong and shining through the pain. Let it rise and let it grow. Let it light the world, you know, let it glow. Carry the flame. And when the day is done at last, we take on the spark you passed and carry the flame. From hand to hand we send it on, the kindling hope of a rising dawn. In us all we carry the flame. Carry the flame, raise it high, send its beacon through the sky. Keep it strong and shining through the pain. Let it rise and let it grow. Let it light the world, you know, let it glow. Carry the flame. We are nurses, doctors, teachers. We are children, parents, preachers, and we all carry the flame. We are scientists and cargo packers, farmers, singers, grocery stackers, young and old. We carry the flame. Carry the flame, raise it high, send its beacon through the sky. Keep it strong and shining through the pain. Let it rise and let it grow. Let it light the world, you know, let it glow. Carry the flame. Let it glow. Carry the flame.
And now Worship Associate Pia Dreissen-Knittle has our first reading, a poem entitled Shedding by Gabriel Hernandez.
Our first selection from Alone Together is a poem entitled Shedding by Gabriel Hernandez. The virus sheds and sheds us of illusion, of safety, of vanity, of separateness. The virus sheds and sheds light on inequity, on injustice, on our interdependence. The virus sheds and we shed tears. Shed light for one another, offering compassion and commiseration, material help and ethereal hope. The virus sheds and we shed what doesn't serve us so we can focus on what matters.
Please join me in singing I Know I Can. Though days be dark with storms and burdens weigh my heart, though troubles wait on every turn, I know I can go on. My sorrow heals my soul, and burdens make me strong. troubles wait at every turn. I know I can't go on. My sister in my heart, my brother in my song. Though troubles wait at every turn, I know I can go on. And though the journey is long, the destination is near. The troubles wait at every turn. I know I can go on. So brothers, take my hand, and sisters, sing my song, and hope awaits at every turn. I know I can go on.
Now is the time in our service when you're invited, encouraged to share a personal joy or sorrow in the supportive presence of this community. This year has certainly shown us in so many ways how joy and sorrow are woven fine together in our lives. And as a community and beyond our community, we have shared many sorrows, concerns, and also joys. I want to say that the mass shootings this past week and a half have certainly been a sorrow, not only for those directly affected, but for all of us who are concerned about gun violence in America. So I will just stone in for that. Our tradition is to put a stone in water, signifying that, like a stone creating ripples in the water, what affects one of us affects all of us in community. So I haven't had specific joys and sorrows shared with me this week, but I know they're out there. Family members who are ill, children who may not be thriving, pets who are sick, concerns about getting the vaccine or getting sick, or job loss, financial difficulties. So I will take my hope stone and I will place it in the water for all of us as we look ahead to a hopeful future, as vaccinations become more plentiful and we can think about getting back to seeing one another face to face. And let us remember that everyone is fighting their own private battle. We know not what it is, but because we're human, we know it to be true. So let us be kind, compassionate, flexible, and forgiving with one another. Each week in our post-service gathering at 11 a.m. on Zoom, we also share joys and sorrows in real time. And you can find the link for the post-service gathering in the e-news on our website. You can also send me your joys or sorrows to minister@beaconuu.com, and I will share them in the service. But now I've created a space of silence where you can speak your joy or sorrow into that space, knowing that we are holding it with you. I invite you to join me now in practicing some intentional breathing. You take your breath everywhere you go. It's portable first aid for your mind, for your body, for your spirit, whether it's a minute here or there, or 5 minutes, or 10 minutes or more. Intentional breathing can ground you, make you more spacious, make you more calm. And that's something I think we all need right now. So if you're willing, uncross your arms, put your feet on the floor, close your eyes, and then take 4 beats in slowly through your nose and exhale 5 or 6 beats out slowly through your mouth, creating a rhythm and a steady stream, seeing where it creates spaciousness from the crown of your head down to where your feet are rooted. So let's just breathe. While you're breathing, I offer this meditation by the Reverend Elizabeth Strong, a renowned UU educator who passed away just this past week. It's called Travelers Upon the Earth. Enter into the season of flowers with joyful hearts. Enter with reverent thoughts. It has taken long months beneath cold ground for flowers to prepare their blooming. It has taken each of us long times of growth through sorrow and joy to prepare for our living now. The blooming season is short. The flowers stay only a brief time. We are travelers upon the earth, travelers through all of the briefest lifetimes. Therefore, let our moments be bountiful. Let us rejoice in our unique colors, aromas, and sounds. Let us celebrate together in love, that as we travel away, we take with us the memory of golden hours together among the flowers. Let's continue breathing together and move into our musical breathing meditation.
Our reading today is Maybe by Anna Quinn. Maybe you're hurling curses at the purple crocuses and eating dinner at 3 o'clock because who can keep track of time anymore? And dinner is mostly Doritos and pancakes, and you're afraid to drink that last carton of milk. The use-by date has come and gone, but you keep checking the date anyway. Maybe you thought you were ready, and you weren't. You were born for this, and you aren't. You were safe, and you're not. And you mostly feel like a child hungry for milk and cookies and reassurance. Maybe you're a single mom with 3 children and a mortgage, and your Safeway shift begins at 5 a.m., and you've been wearing the same mask for a week, and it's impossible to believe you'll survive this tremble of a time and to imagine what will happen to your children. Maybe you ache of loneliness, or maybe you're most alive in solitude. They're so different. Loneliness and solitude, one is something missing, the other something found. Maybe you're between both spaces. Maybe you've started a garden in your windowsill because it's hard not to hope when you plant seeds, or at least that's what you tell yourself, and then you're inexplicably overwhelmed with happiness when the seeds burst through the surface and open their leaves to the sun. Maybe you're making art, and it's more fierce and tender than you imagined. Or maybe you're not, because who can make art at a time like this? Maybe you're noticing things need your attention, and some of those things are huge, like soul work, and some are mundane, like cleaning the bathroom. And you're taking naps on the grass instead of, and imagining a stream flowing over you, and you're too exhausted for epiphanies anyways. Maybe your partner is taking chances that scare you. Maybe they don't think you're taking enough chances. And maybe you respond, but what if the next thing you touch kills you? Maybe there are too many reminders that you're mortal, or someone is dying not in your arms, or you're standing alone outside looking in the window at your mother, the frightened blinks of her eyes, or the nurse is holding the phone to your sister's ear because she is on a ventilator, but still, you know she is listening because of the way she breathes. Maybe you're not alone in your feelings, and maybe you're holding space for someone, or someone is holding space for you. And maybe the most important things for those of us still here are subversive gestures of tenderness and courage and daring to touch the light.
Haven't seen you in such a long time, and you feel so far away, but I'll stay here in my own, 'cause I gotta keep you safe. Couldn't think that we'd be here today. There's so much loss and so much pain. To see your face again, everything will be okay. 'Cause when we're back, it'll be just like we never left. When we're back, nothing will be the same. When we're back, I such a long time. Now we're here to celebrate. I get to look upon your smiling face. You get to wipe my tears away. So when we're back, it'll be just like we never left. When we're back, nothing will be the same. When we're back, I won't waste a single day. And when we're back, I'll wrap my arms around you. Nothing will be the same. Everything will be okay. I won't waste a single day.
My sermon today is entitled Reading Camus in the Time of COVID. Almost exactly 1 year ago, on March 30th, 2020, the New Yorker magazine published an article by Jill Lepore entitled, What Our Contagion Fables Are Really About. Back then, we had no idea that COVID-19 would rightly be called a plague, or that we would be here on March 28th, 2021, still meeting for worship on YouTube and hoping that our recent or anticipated vaccinations will protect us from variants or new viruses. Last year at this time, we were 2 weeks into our virtual worship, and it was a bit rough. And we were talking with a kind of naive confidence about being back in the sanctuary for Easter on April 12th. Of course, that didn't come to pass. Instead, a year of being alone together ensued. Some claim that this pandemic year has been a great reset for humanity. I believe we are yet to see whether the humbling lessons we've gleaned from the lockdown experience will foster greater lasting goodness and humility, or stand as a blip in history, a fleeting shooting star in a dark sky. Humans are remarkably adept at reverting to destructive defaults. A review of this past year surely raises concerns about where we might be headed as a country or planet. And yet we hope, we carry the flame, we bend toward the light, we wander out of the wilderness. It is Passover again. The beloved Jewish holiday began last night with a second year of virtual seders. Yet, as they say at the end of the much coveted Passover meal, next year in Jerusalem, in the holy place of milk and honey. Lepore begins her New Yorker article with the astute observation that in the literature of pestilence, the greatest threat isn't the loss of human life, but the loss of what makes us human. Any zombie or dystopian TV show, movie, or novel shows us that. Mad Max, The Hunger Games, The Walking Dead, anyone? She notes that when the plague came to London in 1665, Londoners lost their wits. They consulted astrologers, quacks, the Bible, 17th century equivalents of considering injecting bleach, I suppose. They begged for prophecies, they paid for predictions, they prayed and yelled. Perhaps today they would have cut the line for the Moderna vaccine. In 1722, Daniel Defoe penned 2 histories of that pandemic in tandem, a journal of a plague year and an advice manual called Due Preparation for the Plague. Defoe hoped that these books would be useful for posterity so that, in his words, we should be spared from that portion of this bitter cup. Lepore laments that this bitter cup has come out of the cupboard yet again. Apparently back then, folks protected themselves with practices like exchanging money by dropping coins in vinegar to sanitize them. So keep that in mind if you run out of Purell. For centuries, plagues ravaged Europe. In Giovanni Boccaccio's 14th century work, Decameron, 7 women and 3 men take turns telling stories for 10 days while hiding from the Black Death. Lepore puts it plainly. The literature of contagion is vile. A plague is like a lobotomy. It cuts away at the higher realms, the loftiest capacities of humanity, and leaves only the animal. That seems a bit severe to me, yet I grasp her point. We have been brought back to a simpler, almost more primal existence, one that is not entirely in our control. Lepore then moves us through Oedipus Rex and Angels in America and Edgar Allan Poe's The Masque of Red Death and Jack London's Scarlet Plague, and then lands on an examination of The Last Man, written in 1826 by Mary Shelley of Frankenstein fame. This work, which is actually set in the 21st century, is the first major work, the first major novel to imagine the extinction of the human race by way of a global pandemic. In the year 2092, where the novel is set, the plague arrives, and year after year, the pestilence dies away every winter and returns every spring, more virulent and widespread. Shelley uses the plague as a metaphor for the descent of humanity, rung by rung, down the ladder it has built. As the pestilence lays waste to the planet, those who survive are reduced to warring tribes until one man, the last man, our narrator, is left to shepherd once more. In this year of Trumpism, QAnon, the insurrection, an uptick in racism and anti-Semitism, 500,000 COVID deaths, violence against transgender individuals, scammers who hoard hand sanitizer, the ongoing climate crisis, mass shootings and economic injustice, how could we not relate to Shelley's cautionary tale? And of course, Lepore alights upon The Plague, the classic by writer-philosopher Albert Camus, written in 1947. She reminds us that Camus once defined the plague novel as the place where all human beings abandon all other human beings. However, this is not the case in his own plague novel. More than any other, it epitomizes Lepore's notion that during pandemics, the greatest threat is the loss of what makes us human. And invariably, there are those who do not succumb to this threat. As pestilence descends on their city and rats die in the street, its citizens must contend, as we have, with not just illness and fear, but with paradoxical ideas of love, isolation, and suffering. Within the walls of the quarantined French-Algerian town of Oran, notices of warning are posted, but in small type and only in obscure places. And the main character, Dr. Rioux, laments that it was hard to find any indication that the authorities were facing the situation squarely. The rich go on living the high life until they are included among the infected. Whoa. That is eerily prescient to the downplaying of the coronavirus by the Trump administration. Dr. Rioux is the compassionate protagonist of Camus' novel, and he ends up locked in an unwanted asylum. Yet the people of Iran are saved at the last minute by a serum, also prescient, and the town erupts in joyful celebration. Even so, the doctor knows that a plague will rise up again and that the ability to truly share in the suffering of others can be fleeting. A common reading of the plague is that it is primarily an allegory about fascism. That is certainly one layer of meaning you can take away from the story. However, Camus really didn't write a book about Nazis and evil. By writing about an infectious disease, Camus emphasized the relative unimportance to him of the motivation of the evil thing. When he accepted his Nobel Prize, he remarked, "What writer would from now on in good conscience dare set himself up as a preacher of virtue? What preacher, including myself, would do the same?" The essence of Camus' classic can be found in how the humans of Iran react to their predicament. And the same could be said of us and how we have reacted to the COVID pandemic. There is Dr. Ryu, who is devoted to service. There is Tarot, an observer, an incorrigible overthinker, the one who must seek out why. He is constantly chewing over the nature of moral choice and concludes that he will side with the victim. There is the journalist Rambert, who longs to escape and reunite with his lover. There is the smuggler Cotard, who profits off other people's misery. And there is Panalou, the Jesuit priest who takes every contingency as a sign of God's will and the plague as a sign of mankind's depravity. How can we not recognize these characters in the American morality play of coronavirus in 2020? In his piece for the Los Angeles Times, Stephen Metcalf reminds us that Camus understood how a universal catastrophe lays a kind of film over humanity through which the strangest, most unexpected behaviors seep to the surface. Some profiteer and loot, and some express a previously latent capacity for selfless heroism. Frontline and healthcare workers come to mind. Dr. Ryu offers us one of the simplest but most profound revelations in the novel when he proclaims, "A loveless world is a dead world." Lepore wasn't the only journalist to pen epic examinations of our existential dilemma. It's been a veritable cottage industry. In August of 2020, in the Wall Street Journal, Eric Weiner explored how philosophy, the slow cure, as it is called, can help us untangle the knotty ethical questions raised by the pandemic and personal ones, more personal ones as well, such as how to endure the unendurable. He quips, "We are all philosophers now." Weiner asks, with a bit of a poke in the eye, are you working on a seamlessly fruitless project, a dissertation or a marketing strategy, forever delayed, buffeted by the gales of circumstance? Good, Camus would say. You've begun to grasp the absurdity of life. Invest in the effort, not the result, and you will sleep better. His prescription is our challenge in this age of COVID-19, staring down the capriciousness of our predicament, but stubbornly persisting rather than yielding to despair, just like a good philosopher, because a loveless world is a dead world. A hopeless world is a dead world. The Israelites who wandered in the wilderness out of Egypt knew a bit about staring down the capriciousness of our predicament, but stubbornly persisting rather than succumbing or yielding to despair. This past week, I heard a rabbi on NPR commenting on this pandemic year and a second virtual Seder. Oy vey. He noted that 1 year was a long time to spend in the wilderness, but he would take it over 40. A witty reference to the duration Moses and the Israelites wandered until they could enter the promised land. That wilderness wandering is a major aspect of the telling of Passover or the Haggadah. And one of the favorite sections is when the group recites the 10 plagues that befell Egypt until Pharaoh relented and freed the Israelites. As a ritual to accompany this recitation, you allow a droplet of wine to fall from your pinky onto a plate. The traditional plagues are blood, frogs, lice, beasts, cattle, disease, boils, hail, locusts, darkness, and death of the firstborn. During this anniversary of an actual plague, the recitation of 10 contemporary plagues, something that's been added to modern seders over the years, hold an even deeper significance. They are hunger, inequity, greed, hatred, silence amid violence or oppression, environmental degradation, stigma of mental illness, lack of hospitality to the stranger, and powerlessness or taking power away from others. To these, we can add, as I previously mentioned, political and racial discord, the insurrection, climate degradation, and violence against people, mass shootings. We've had 2 in the past week and a half. Economic injustice. Those plagues didn't disappear while we sheltered in place, and they won't be magically eradicated by Elohim on Mount Sinai or anywhere else. Our journey towards freedom demands the work of our hearts, our minds, our resources, our voices, and our hands. We can exit this wilderness of the coronavirus to create a world rooted in compassion, authentic connection, and justice next year in Jerusalem. In the poem by Gail Brandeis we heard earlier called Shedding, she writes, "The virus sheds and sheds us of illusion, of safety, of vanity, of separateness. The virus sheds and we shed what doesn't serve us so we can focus on what matters." What have you shed this past year? Perhaps the hubris that we can control our fates, or distractions that we had endowed with value. Maybe we have shed toxic relationships or habits or grievances that now seem insignificant. And beyond the shedding, how might we experience a reset that enables us to create a beloved community with face-to-face texture and connection? In her piece for Best Self, written just this past week, the Buddhist Claire Jones, we want to cover all the bases here, tells us that despite our suffering due to COVID-19, we face a unique opportunity to reset our thinking, to have a more positive impact as a collective. In this new and bizarre world, we must rise above petty differences and divisions if we hope to be a stronger and more forward-looking society. In the light of the dire circumstances we face, our laser-like focus should be on the greater good that uplifts and motivates us to adhere to our better, higher selves. As we heard in Anna Quinn's essay, Maybe, which Pia shared, maybe you're not alone in your feelings, and maybe you're holding space for someone, or someone is holding space for you. And maybe the most important thing for those of us still here are subversive gestures of tenderness and courage and daring to touch the light. May we touch the light. May we retain some of the humility foisted upon us this past year while moving courageously into a season of renewal. May we be healers like Dr. Ryu and truth tellers like Thoreau. For Ryu, after all, the only meaning of fighting a plague is common decency. He also reminds us, through Camus' humanist lens, that in times of pestilence, humans learn that there are more things to admire in people than to despise. May it be so, and may we step lively, for there are beloveds yet to embrace anew, and plagues aplenty yet to be cured. Blessed be, blessed we, and amen.
Please join me in singing Let It Be a Dance. Let it be a dance we do. May I have this dance with you, through the good times and the bad times too. Let it be a dance. Let a dancing song be heard. Play the music, say the words, and fill the sky with sailing birds. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. Learn to follow, learn to lead. Feel the rhythm, feel the need. To reap the harvest, plant the seed. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance we do. May I have this dance with you, through the good times and the bad times too. Let it be a dance. Everybody turn and spin. Let your body learn to bend, and like the willow with the wind. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. A child is born, the old must die. A time for joy, a time to cry. Take it as it passes by. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance we do. May I have this dance with you, through the good times and the bad times too. Let it be a dance. Morning star comes out at night. Without the dark there is no light. If nothing's wrong, then nothing's right. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. Let the sunshine, let the rain. Share the laughter, bear the pain. And round we go again. Let it be a dance.
Each week in our service, whether we're here in our virtual sanctuary or here in our actual sanctuary, we take an offering to support Beacon and our programs. There are two ways you can make a donation to Beacon. You can go to our website, www.beaconuu.com, find the donate button, and make a secure online donation through the Vanco application. If you use this method, please use a bank account rather than a credit card to save us some fees, so there'll be more for Beacon. Or you can send us a check to 510 North LaRue Street, Flagstaff, Arizona, 86001. And either way, we are so grateful for whatever generosity you can rain on us during this particularly challenging time. We're coming to the end of our stewardship month, And if you have received a pledge letter and card, we encourage you to return it as soon as you can with as generous a pledge as you can make this year, so we can move into the fall with strength. And finally, at the end of our service, we come together and we stand in a circle and hold hands so that we can tangibly feel the strength, the power, and the love of the Beacon community. So I invite you to imagine us holding hands here through YouTube, feeling that same connection. Because whether we are together or apart, we are Beacon, always connected. Please feel free to reach out to me at any time at minister@beaconuu.com. Blessed be and blessed we. Pia now has some closing words for us.
Benediction for a People in Pandemic by Reverend Anya Samler-Michael. When faced with a challenge such as this, we can turn toward one another or we can turn against. We can ignore the cries of our neighbors, or we can let them cry into the arms of our witness. We can respond with indifference to systemic injustice, or we can commit to its undoing. Good souls, tales will be told of how we responded when this particular hell was visited upon our earth. Let us know, and let it be said by generations to come, that when the pain of our separation was revealed, we moved closer to the promised land of our beloved community. Amen.
Hello, this is Smile, made popular by Nat King Cole. Please enjoy. Smile, though your heart is aching. Smile, even though it's breaking. When there are clouds in the sky, you get by. If you smile through your fear and show